Among the three teams that picked at the top of the 2025 NFL draft, which one has the best chance to make the playoffs in 2025? I've got my pick. Let me tell you why. I'm Kyle Krabs with A to Z Sports, and if you've watched football for any period of time, you very quickly learn the lesson that you can never say never as it pertains to worst to first or worst to playoffs. And last year's Washington Commanders is an excellent example of exactly that. Washington had decades of downtrodden seasons, and under Dan Quinn, with Jaden Daniels at the quarterback position, experienced a resurgence like few teams have ever experienced, playing in the NFC Championship game and even winning one of their head-to-head matchups against the Eagles in the regular season. Of the teams that picked in the top three of this year's draft, who has the best chance to make a run to the postseason? Everybody's favorite pick on a worst to first candidate is the New England Patriots, of course, who picked number 4 and drafted Will Campbell, an offensive lineman, to go and help protect quarterback Drake May. They added head coach Mike Vrabel. They spent a ton of money in free agency. Some of the rest of the AFC East is regressing from a team and talent perspective. So it's a fair call out to make, but that's too low-hanging fruit for me. I want to look at the top 3. The Giants at 3, Jaguars, who traded up to 2, and the Tennessee Titans at 1. Let me tell you first why I don't think it's going to be the New York Giants. The schedule is absolutely brutal to open for New York. And this team's under a lot of pressure. There's pressure from the media. There's pressure from the team. There's pressure from the fan base. Brian Daboll's on the hot seat. Joe Schoen is on the hot seat. And for that team to open this year with road games against Washington and Dallas before then hosting Kansas City and the Chargers with the seasons that those two teams just had, it's a brutal first month, but it doesn't stop at the first month. You look at the rest of the schedule, they've got a trip to New Orleans, and then they play the Eagles twice in 3 games with a trip to Denver. They're sandwiched in between the two. They go home against San Francisco, at Chicago, Green Bay, at Detroit, at New England. That's the start of the schedule for the Giants. And Brian Daboll's just looking for a quarterback that's going to execute his offense as it called. I don't think he's going to find it in Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson, during the entirety of the Let Russ Cook era, but between the end of his tenure in Seattle, his time in Denver, and his time last year in Pittsburgh, he's a touchdown to check down style passer. He likes to take shots down the field. He's really good at throwing those moonball vertical shots. But if he doesn't like what he sees, more often than not, he's going to make a risk-adverse decision and get the ball to the back or the check down underneath. But that puts the offense in a box, and it doesn't execute the calls as they're designed, which has me curious how soon it will be before we see Jackson dart behind center. And perhaps it's sooner rather than later, and maybe he becomes the next Jaden Daniels. I'll be smart enough to never say never in that regard. But I think the probabilities are against it, and therefore I'm fading the Giants being that team, especially in the NFC East with a rebuilt Dallas team and 2 NFC Championship game representatives from last season. Now, those 2 AFC South teams, I'm picking the Titans, and a lot of it has to do with the schedule as the reason why. Jacksonville's going through a lot of change. They changed head coach. They made a late decision to change the executive and the general manager responsible for football operations, hiring James Gladstone. Trevor Lawrence is a more proven product right now than what Cam Ward is at the NFL level, but Jacksonville's got new on the offensive line, new offensive scheme, new defensive scheme, new coach. It's a lot of new. And the Jaguars only play 4 games in their home stadium after October 13th this season. You contrast that to Tennessee, who has to be road warriors early on, but then they only play 3 road games in November and December and January combined at the end of their schedule. And one of those is a matchup in Week 18 in Jacksonville against the Jaguars. So for 2 teams that picked at the top of the 2025 NFL draft, you may see the stage set in Week 18 for dramatically different odds this time around for teams that made wholesale changes. But thanks to the schedule and some continuity within the coaching staff, the front office, and some of the personnel in the offensive line, you could put me down as the Titans having the best odds to make that playoff run in 2025.